So in today's video, I'm doing a tier list of every single musical and song sequence in Joker Fully 2 or just Joker 2. This tier list is set up in a way that it is organized in the way of which they appear within the film. So starting off with the very opening scene, the animated sequence, Me and My Shadow. This is going to be our first S tier, and honestly, I like all these for one reason or another. So it's more so just me giving my interpretation on the scenes rather than my overall enjoyment of them, as this is my 16th most favorite movie of all time. But really starting off with this one, I think this scene does a great job at laying out the thematic groundwork for the rest of the film, which is the idea that Arthur Fleck and Joker are two separate beings, and how that is kind of explored further in the film, and how it's first shown here with Me and My Shadow, just a very entertaining animated sequence with that sort of classic animation mixed with obviously the meaning, and also I think it has a double meaning even beyond that, where you have the shadow, which is the form of the Joker, taking over Arthur, and I think that's also symbolizes how the Joker overshadows Arthur, where people who are his supporters, when they're not Arthur's supporters, they're not his supporters, they are Joker's supporters. So just the being of Joker just overshadowing him as a person, to where he gets overshadowed by Arthur, where nobody cares about Arthur. They only care about the Joker. And yeah, so next up is the That's Life music sequence of the film. Again, when I said music and musical sequence, it's because it's not always like them singing or whatever. Sometimes it is just a music sequence where music is integrated into the scene very well. Where here, this is kind of a contrast to when we are first brought into Arkham and we see Arthur for the first time again, and he is just miserable in Arkham. You see that very skeletal build again, because Joaquin Phoenix lost a lot of weight for the role in both films. He's moving without a skip in his step. Like, there's no energy within him, even without that signature laugh from his disorder. But then you contrast that with this scene here, where like he is, in his eyes, he finally has a connection that he's never had before, which he finds in Lee. And the song That's Life is kind of also symbolic, because life is finally something that Arthur feels like he is having. He's having a new life experience, and for him, this is life. This connection that he's finally having is what his life could have been, what he wishes it could have been. And then him just lighting a cigarette at the very end when it goes lights out, I think is just a very nice way to end it, where kind of showing that spark is lit within Arthur the way it wasn't at the very beginning. Anyways, next up, this is the For Once in My Life musical sequence. This is the first time in the film somebody is actually singing, and this is just Joaquin Phoenix just straight up giving a great performance as he sees on the TV. He's watching the TV in front of the room, and this is basically when he's watching the TV, and it says that they're approaching the death penalty. And then contrast that with the way Arthur acts, at least in his mind, in this scene, is just a great way of showing how his mental disconnect between reality and what's going on in his mind, where in reality, he's approaching the death penalty. He's about to die, probably. And then, which we obviously know he does, but nonetheless. And then also, you have the disconnect in his brain, where all he can think about is this connection with Lee. So he's seeing For Once in My Life, because for once in his life, he has that connection, or at least that illusion of a connection. Then you have contrasting that what we see on the television before him, which is the question of the death penalty. And yeah, so I think it's just a great scene. And now this one, okay, this is what I'm very mixed on. And I think this one will be a C tier, where I've tried to do some mental gymnastics to enjoy this scene, but I really don't. where obviously like Lee lights the match during the movie and causes it all to go up in flames, and then they evacuate and obviously they run off. And I I really don't like this scene. I genuinely don't, because even from the perspective that you could see it as Arthur just being in a completely different state of mind, willing to go out of his comfort zone and do something he wouldn't normally do for his love for Lee. But I just don't buy that. It is just too much for me. Where he's just running around smiling with Lee and everything. They're dancing and then they're running, jumping on the fences. I just don't buy that, honestly. But it leads to my most favorite, or at least one of my most favorite musical sequences of the film, which is the Hotel Arkham sequence, where this is right after this one takes place, where he's in the hole, basically. He got dragged away, he's in the hole, and then it cuts to the moon first, and then Lee, and then the whole set lights up, and then there's Arthur, and then they're dancing. And number one, the set is beautiful. If you watch behind the scenes videos of how they did this scene, it is insane to watch. Beyond that, you have just the choreography, which I think was very well done. It kind of reminded me, vaguely of La La Land, of like the scene where they're dancing over the skyline, kind of reminiscent of this, or this is kind of reminiscent of that. There's a beautiful set. I liked the choreography. I liked just the overall, the way it looked. I liked everything. I liked everything about this, honestly. And it's not loud or anything like some of the other ones. It's just quite just some nice choreography. Just a very nice set, really showing off that blank check money that they gave Todd Phillips after making the highest grossing R-rated film of all time. All right, this one's a really great one. This one's a great one, where this is kind of just showing or visualizing the peak of his obsession with Lee and Lee's obsession with the Joker, where he's in the interview with Patty, and at this point Arthur feels at this point Lee has signed herself out of Arkham, but Arthur's still being basically manipulated by her, and he's out there spelling how much he loves her and how he is obsessed with her, and he is just Joaquin Phoenix giving a great performance, where Patty is just absolutely just questioning him to death, and then he just bursts into song, and yeah, all right. This one I didn't like. I did not see the point of this one. Where honestly, I think it's a really short scene. Number one. Number two, there was like no reason for this to be here other than just to give Lady Gaga some singing time. But I mean, it had some nice cinematography with the court outside the courthouse. But I don't know. I just didn't really get it that much. I think there's way better ones on here. All right, I love this one. I think this one's a great one. Again, I am the ultimate Joker 2 glazer. Okay, so like most of these are gonna be an S tier. It's not really where I'm putting them. It's more of my interpretation of the scenes. And this one is the one up next. And this is when he's first approaching the courtroom, finally outside of Arkham for the first time in the film. And he's about to approach the courtroom, and obviously it ends with him walking in there. And this was also a scene in the trailer, just a bunch of people being on the sides and everything as he's going in. And I just love the scene. It really sets the tone for, again, how he did start this big movement at the tail end of the first film, going into this film, kind of being the catalyst of all that, of all of his followers, of all of his supporters, and, well, haters here. And yeah, and also like love it, like as we see Arthur, like again, like it was right before this, but when he was like when they were in the tunnel driving, and he's like practicing his smile, and like I love this scene. All right, straight up. Oh, okay, this is a really good one. This is one I really like. This is when he's in the courthouse right after he's in the courtroom, and they are doing the NBC Studio, the Joker and Harley show. I love this one for many reasons. On one hand, the set is insane. Number two, I think the theme is just great, and I love um, how Gaga and Phoenix just have this great um, dynamic when they're singing together and everything. And then the way it symbolizes how Arthur believed they had this great thing going, and then the lawyer breaking all this news about Lee to him. Then at the very end, him getting shot by her at the very end of the sequence. It's kind of being symbolized of how they had a good thing going. They were seen together. But then that shot to the gut, that blow to the gut, that Lee may have not been who he thought she was. Who he thought she... Yeah, okay, I said it right. It's fine. Alright, now this one is a little after that when they are in... when he's back in Arkham, Lee comes to visit him, and he's basically confronting her about the things that she learned that she lied about. And, like, honestly, this is one of the scenes where I kind of agree with people that say that it shouldn't have been a musical. This scene should not have been musical. Honestly, where I feel like they could have just dug into just a great scene of just Lee kind of, like, manipulating him. Even though she can't confront the fact that, yeah, she did lie a little bit about everything. But Arthur doesn't know that yet. Arthur is still under her spell, more or less. And so, on the other hand, though, it feels like every time she breaks in a song, Arthur's basically under her spell. So then that happening again, and then this scene right here, which I love, how he's able to just, like that, I can't even imagine how hard that was to choreograph for him to get in that exact perfect angle to make that work. So I think this will be our first B tier of our ranking. Alright, the Joker is me. This is going to be at the top of our ranking. And I think it will only be beaten by one, which is coming up very soon. Okay, so basically the Joker is me. I love this one. Alright, just from the way the lighting just shoots down onto Arthur. And then it's just Joaquin just giving a great performance. Again, Joaquin's great in this movie. I don't even know how he got nominated for a Razzie, but the Razzies are a joke. I say that as the biggest Joker 2 fan on Earth. And, yeah, it's just a very entertaining scene, a very well choreographed scene, a scene that really symbolizes how the only way Arthur can... See, because this is the point where they were having the witnesses come to the stand. One of those was the girl that he stalked in the first film. And then the only way he can escape the realization of who his mother really was is escape into this song reality with Lee. And also the Joker is me is just symbolic of how he thought he had this great relationship with his mother. And then obviously the more he goes through life, the more he realizes that his childhood with his mother and his just overall relationship with his mother was not everything he thought it was. And yeah, so next up is the marriage scene. And also, this is the scene where Arthur is like, it's like a jazz band. He's doing like the tap dancing and everything. And I think, okay, this is the only one that's going to be beaten. Okay, I'm going to say this. There is not a single one that's going to beat this one. Or this one. Okay, actually, there won't be another S tier on this ranking. But I still think the rest of them are great. Alright, that being said, let's move on. Okay, so this is just one I absolutely love. From just the gigantic sets where it starts off in like the wedding one, and this is after Puddles ends up taking the stand, and then it cuts into this marriage where they're getting married, where number one, I love the music. I love the music in this whole film, but this one specifically stands out to me, where even in this one, after Puddles takes a stand and everything, you have Puddles dancing here, just kind of Arthur building up that illusion in his mind that he cannot accept the fact that he hurt Puddles in the same way that he couldn't bear the fact that he ended up about the truths and the revelations of his relationship with his mother. He can't accept that. And he can't accept that someone he saw as a friend, that being Puddles, is afraid of him. He can't accept that. So he breaks in here where you see Puddles dancing. But even that's not the main part of the sequence, because it is just Arthur giving his life to Lee. And then cutting into the sort of jazz sequence where he's doing the tap dancing and everything is great. Just my most favorite musical sequence of this film by far. Not by far, because I think all these are great. But nonetheless. Oh, this one. This is an interest. Oh, this is one. This is probably the most controversial one, where it's not a musical sequence. It is just a song that plays. And this is when, obviously, after Arthur just explodes in front of the courtroom about the guards, bad-mouthing the guards, obviously, when he's going up there, well, Puddles is on the stand, and then this is him going back into Arkham right before he is mistreated by the guards. And I think this is a great contrast from where we see him later, where this is him right on a high, basically, or the illusion of one, where he finally lets a lot out. He finally is fully back into the Joker persona has taken full control. And obviously we see it being broken right after this by the guards. But for a short bit, when he's on his way back to Arkham, he has that illusion of being the Joker until it's shattered right in front of him. That leads to the next part in the courtroom. So, no, this will be in our S tier. Yeah, this will be in our S tier. Actually, I'm going to move... No. Yeah, okay, I'm going to keep everything where it is. I'm going to put it in S tier, though. Alright, so this is the one where Lee just completely goes goes Harley Quinn makeup, going into the courtroom. This is shortly before Arthur goes in front of the jury, throws himself onto the jury, and just lets it all out. About how he didn't kill 5 people, he killed 6 people. About how his regrets in life. And how that Joker persona, obviously from the night before, is just completely shattered. He lays in his cell just because obviously his friend ends up getting killed shortly after this, of how his actions and the consequences they have on the people around him, but also how the Joker persona isn't real and how it bear down on him and how it killed him from the inside out. And now here, just him completely letting loose. It's a great scene. But this is just the right before that, where obviously Lee ended up having that persona of the Joker broken. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in top of A tier. Alright, next up is the... this is basically after he goes out in front of the jury and everything. It completely lets loose. Then Lee leaves. And this is him giving her a call, or a voicemail, that is, where he basically he's singing If You Go. And that is symbolic of how again, this is the only real, this is the connection he's had, because obviously he had that connection with that girl, that was all in his mind. Where now here, he really feels like he had that connection with Lee. But that was only for the Joker, that wasn't for Arthur. But now that is just Arthur, Lee doesn't want that. Alright? And so he now realizing he's going to lose that connection in his life, Lee, that love connection, or else the illusion of that. He is just letting it out emotionally in song for Lee. As then it cuts into where Lee is about to, like, in a very, like, sad, very depressed about how yeah, the illusion of the Joker is coming crashing down. But Arthur still wants Lee, but that isn't going to happen because Lee was just trying to manipulate him to get that Joker out from in him. And I think I'll put this right here, in A tier. Okay, this is the final musical sequence of the film, and I think I'll put it in A tier. Probably about like back of A tier, actually, yeah. So this is just a great scene where Lee starts singing, and Arthur is like, "Please stop singing, bro. Please stop singing." And then and I think I saw that as Lee, because like again, all throughout this film, her singing was sort of her connecting to Arthur, sort of her kind of making Arthur go under that spell of love. And so then her singing to him and that not working for him because finally that version of the Joker is completely destroyed. What's left is her singing, not him, not him joining in or buying into it. He's like, stop. Because Lee can't have a conversation with Arthur, only there for the Joker. So now when it is only Arthur throwing himself over there for Lee, she doesn't see the appeal in that. So all she does is sing, hiding how she really feels. And also it cuts back to the Joker and Harley show, where again, this cuts back to where after he was shot in the gut, this is going back to that, where it really just shows that, yeah, the illusion is broken. And yeah, so that is my tier list of every single musical and song sequence in Joker Folie à Deux. I love this film. I'll probably end up doing a review of it at some point, just if, because I'm making quite a few videos right now, just like, I'm trying to space them out a lot more than I did previously. But, yeah, that really does cover this. I was thinking this video would be a lot longer than it was, but I got it all covered in pretty good time, I thought. That was pretty good, and that is the tier list. If you all enjoyed this video or any of my other content, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.